Hey everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's a bonus edition of Lettermen Live brought to you by Byers Auto this week. Got the one and only, the legend, Tim May on my right, the Director of Recruiting, Jeremy Birmingham on my left. We had some technical difficulties in our last episode, so we'll catch up on some of the recruiting stakes for this week. But we had some, as Jerry Emig would call it, Tim, bonus coverage. We had the head ball coach, Ryan Day, with some updates on the offseason and all four coordinators. Really, I think that this is a welcome situation for the media. It should be for fans as well, just to get some summertime updates. If you had one key takeaway from Ryan Day or any of those coordinators, what was it today?
Well, from the coordinators, Mike Yursich talking about the quarterback battle. People keep giving it to Justin Fields like it's his job.
Right.
I think Matthew Baldwin even did that, right? But he says he's still competing to separate himself. The other thing is that Ryan Day hinted again that he is very, I don't know if confident's the right word, but he's feeling good about the offensive line. And, the word that's been matriculating out of here a lot in the last several months is the feeling that this offensive line could be better than last year's. And that happened to be the offensive line that was for the record-setting offense. But the bottom line is they've got 4 or 5 guys. They're going to have 4 new starters. We know that. But they've got a pretty good amount of depth there of guys who have played a little bit, and to me that's key, because before you start talking about the quarterback and everything else, how's that offensive line come along? They feel pretty good about it.
You and I have both talked about this a number of times, that Matthew Baldwin, he deserved to keep pushing, and you're going to have to probably play a second guy at some point.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that stood out, if I had one line that Ryan Day said, was Justin Fields did not win the job in the spring. Okay? Everyone keeps saying that we're fabricating this, that it's really over, and maybe Justin Fields is going to be the starter.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you have to award it in June.
Well, that's, like Gunnar Hoke, Ohio State really didn't give him a real serious look back in the day. Now, maybe Jeremy will refute that, but, exactly. And, Chuganov, he played a few snaps at West Virginia, but he's the guy that transferred in. And you're going to get into this. You're probably going to need, Lettermen Row is probably going to need a recruiting guy to cover recruiting and a guy to cover portals. And I just think it's really just dumbfounding almost that every quarterback that's sitting in that room right now, from a scholarship or whatever you want to call it standpoint, was not initially signed and recruited by Ohio State. It's crazy when you think about what has happened in 5 months.
To the Director of Recruiting and Portal monitoring, this is definitely a weird situation, and it keeps coming up too with, Ohio State has guys committed for the next 2 years, as you know, and can tell people about, but it's hard to plan 4 or 5 years into the future right now, quarterback.
I think the goal is to plan for one right now. We're talking about, as Ryan Day alluded to in his press conference today, the change from last year to now is unbelievable. There's a guy in that room, the total amount of Buckeye snaps taken in that room by a quarterback is 2. Yeah. 2. And the presumptive starter has been here for 15 practices. So, I know, and I was thinking this, and we're in there. Did Ryan Day make Dwayne Haskins' career, or did Dwayne Haskins make Ryan Day's?
Jesse Owens, he was a pretty good, his track coach was pretty good during those years.
Yeah, Big Ten Coach of the Year.
So I just don't know exactly what they're going to do. The goal is to get kids that understand that quarterback is not like other positions. You are going to sit. You are going to take a year or two to develop. And again, I know that they always talk about Dwayne Haskins and how he left after his redshirt sophomore year, but he had 2 years to sit and develop.
Right.
So those 2 years were wildly important for Dwayne Haskins, and he wouldn't have been able to leave without those 2 years.
I'm telling you, I still am surprised. Maybe y'all aren't, that Tate Martell took off. I don't know what he was told. Clearly he got the idea or was told something in between talking to us before the bowl game and after the bowl game. But the bottom line was, wow, you don't even give it 2 years to take your best shot at the place you thought was paradise for you. Yeah. In recruiting. I think if the Pandora's box here is very interesting. And as Ryan Day, he stepped back from what his idea was about the transfer portal in the spring. He was, kind of like, what do you call it, spitballing the idea. Maybe teams ought to be limited to signing no more than 2. And now he's like going, well, I'm kind of open-minded about that. I'm going to step back. But I'm not sure where this is going. But this to me, Ohio State is almost the poster child for the transfer portal when it comes to quarterbacks this year.
I think it's interesting, too. You talk about Tate Martell. Ding. The same is true for Matthew Baldwin, right? Like, if you're going to be the number 2, most likely, you stick it out. I think there's a lot of – we haven't touched on it really since the spring game. It's been 6 weeks since he left the following week. He got homesick. So, obviously, that was more important to him than the chance to be the number 2. But with Tate as well – why not even go through spring? He didn't have a great spring at Miami.
Right.
That's part of it. But these guys, too, if you can get to that situation where it's easier than ever to get in the portal, but also if you graduate, which Tate theoretically would have done at the end of next year, then you still have the Joe Burrow option. It's kind of crazy that it's June. You'd think that Ohio State would have enough settled with their quarterback position that we could stop talking about it.
Who came off the bench and won the Michigan game in 2014? Cardale Jones, or he was the quarterback of record, as it turned out, after J.T. Barrett got hurt, who became the starter because Braxton Miller got hurt. Who came off the bench and saved the Michigan game in 2017? It was Dwayne Haskins, because J.T. I mean, things change. Things can change in football like that, and suddenly. And I'm not saying you count on the guy ahead of you to get hurt, but not to even give it 2 years at an institution, to me, is, I don't. It's just, I'm still stunned by it.
Yeah, Martell's transfer was almost expected, I think, by people from the minute he got here because of his history. He had committed to multiple schools. He had decommitted multiple times. He was the number 1 ranked quarterback in the country. He was a 3-time national champion. He was a Gatorade and Army All-American Player of the Year. There was all this expectation, and I think that the mindset is, hey, I'm not going to go there and sit. Matthew Baldwin was a totally different situation, and he was brought in and told, you are going to be our guy, to try to be our guy in 2021.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he was on board with that idea, and then he got homesick, and everything changes in the blink of an eye. But what you're talking about is open and honest conversation, which is what Ryan Day said in his conference again, which is, we're going to tell these kids, this is what the plan is. You are not going to come in here as a freshman quarterback and play. It's just not. It's not going to happen. And if it is, there's a major problem inside of the program.
Yeah. All right. So we can focus. We're going to keep talking about the quarterbacks. I can guarantee you all through Big Ten Media Days into training camp.
Well,
that's never going to
they're
stop.
just another player. Baloney.
No,
Trey Lawrence was not just another player at Clemson.
Yeah. But so on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Byers Auto, to shift away from the quarterbacks just for a second, right over here behind Tim and us, those new arrivals, the freshmen, are here. They've got into camp. Or not into camp, but they're enrolled in classes. They're going through the workout program, and Ryan Day talked about that. This summer is an important acclimation period. Tim, they don't have OTAs or mini camps or that sort of thing, but Mickey Marotti has a chance to get their hands on them, and there are a couple guys, Harry Miller maybe at the top of the list, that can jump in and maybe help Ohio State by August.
Yeah, well, as much as they spoke about Harry Miller during the recruiting, during the signing period, et cetera, and as much as we've talked about him and about it, there's the idea that he could challenge immediately for playing time, perhaps even a starting job at center. That's crazy, but these guys don't come in like they did, 30 years ago, 35 years ago when I first started covering Ohio State football. They don't play their way into shape, and this kid, he definitely looks the part, And then Steel Chambers, for example, I mean, there's a guy that, kind of catches your eye, so to speak. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting acclimation period though for them, because they have to make it tough on them, because the jump from high school football to college football is probably the biggest jump they will ever make from an athletic standpoint. Yes, college football, the NFL, is a huge jump, but you played against some like guys who make it that jump. But this is like, when you get here, everybody was recruited just like you because they were the best at what they do. And so it's always interesting to watch them deal with that. Some back away, some definitely step up.
So, Berm, this class is here. They're working out. There's going to be maybe some future members of the Ohio State signing class working out in this same building tomorrow. You and I will be here to provide some coverage of that wherever we can. And as we tried to talk about yesterday, that the most interesting part of that camp might be a battle at tight end.
Yeah, I'm going to just take one step back and think it's interesting. Ryan Day mentioned only 2 specific freshmen, Steel Chambers and Craig Young. Craig Young, a guy who can play anywhere on the defense, 6'4", 210 pounds, 4'5" guy. And when you look over here, he's the guy that stands out, right? You're looking like, oh, crap, that kid is rocked up. But it was a year ago that Craig Young was at this camp tomorrow and trying to prove that he could play at Ohio State. And so it's very interesting to me to watch tomorrow Luke Lachey, the tight end from Grandview Heights, and Joe Royer, the tight end from Cincinnati Elder. And it's going to be basically a head-to-head battle, I think, for one recruiting spot, for one offer for Ohio State, because I believe that they want one national tight end and one Ohio tight end. Will they go with the Buckeye legacy in Lachey? Will they go with the guy who I think is maybe a little bit more ready to play right now in Royer? I think it's going to be really fascinating to watch, and you're going to watch 2 guys tomorrow, and we're going to watch 2 guys tomorrow that are going to go
I'm actually gonna be going to Toronto tomorrow.
Okay, gotcha.
But thanks for the invitation. I usually do show up at these things because that's where. Well, I was here with Craig Young. We were talking to Craig Young after his workout and stuff, and it was amazing. He knew he had made an impression, and you can see the light in their eyes, and like you're talking about Luke Lachey, the legacy from Harrisburg, Animal House, but the legacy from Marble Cliff, as we call it, Jim Lachey's son. I mean, just wow, if you can see he has bright eyes for the opportunity that's in front of him, and that's what's cool about camp.
You don't want to alienate the color guy on the radio.
No, the analyst. You mean the analyst?
The analyst, excuse me.
Exactly.
I always get these titles mixed up. Everybody's got such confusing.
Well, he has kids, and they keep going to different colleges. You'd think he'd have one that could stay at Ohio State so he could watch them play.
Well, if he wants to, tomorrow's the day to make it happen. So to me, that's the story of the week is that battle between Royer and Lachey, because every single rep tomorrow is going to be a check mark in or against them.
Are there any quarterbacks coming in tomorrow you think could make an impression, Jeremy? I mean,
at this point, unless it's a 2022 quarterback or a 2023 quarterback, there's no point really, because the Buckeyes, I mean, they're obviously in a position still where they probably need another 2020 in this class, but I don't know that anyone's just going to show up and blow them away that they haven't already been watching or paying attention to. So the next 10 days, they're going to have 6 or 7 different camp settings, and it will really go a long way. And Ryan Day said it again today. June is so important for the Buckeyes in this recruiting season and this 2020 cycle. So to me, that's the takeaway from today, aside from, again, just how incredible it is to talk to them.
It's clear that Ohio State has become an offensive destination for some folks. I mean, when you look at the kid who just committed, the wide receiver, and you look at Garrett Wilson, and I mean, they see the opportunity here to catch the ball. I mean, there was a time 50 years ago when you weren't going to catch the ball. You weren't going. If you got 10 catches, you led the team in catches and stuff. And now it's like you can just see it's all been fostered by what Urban Meyer kind of took it up a notch.
Yeah.
And obviously Jim Tressel played offensive football, but not like this. This team has set record after record offensively, and I think players are being attracted.
Yeah, you almost only have to go back to 2011 to see some of those numbers
and
with
then
the wide
quarterbacks
receivers.
that get attracted, or then they get disillusioned and move on.
No matter, hey, whatever we're talking about with football in June, it's great to be doing it, especially with these guys, Tim May and Jeremy Birmingham. I always love it. Getting this offseason moving so that we can get done and actually break down some football again. That's what we're all looking forward to. Camp's coming. We're going to have that full coverage for you at Lettermen Row. We're going to try and keep Tim around to do some more Letterman Lives with us coming forward, because he's got all the thoughts and the knowledge that we need. And I'm just Austin Ward, and this has been Letterman Live, brought to you by Byers Auto. We'll see you right back here next week.